Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/new music industry. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
You're listening to the New Music Industry with David Andrew Wiebe.
Today I'm chatting with videographer, musician, and a dear friend of mine, João Filipe. How are you today, João?
I'm doing fine, man.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Finally, man, after 2 years, I was every day thinking, when is it going to happen?
I bet you were, yeah. Yeah, like you say, it's been a while since we last talked, and this conversation is really long overdue. But as they say, better late than never, right? And this isn't the only open loop I've created with the podcast. Rest assured, I've started talking about growth hacking and other things that I haven't even started to put the bow on yet. But this is one of those things that needed to happen. So just to get this out of the way, why don't you share with the listeners what you're working on these days?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really good that you ask me these days, because then it would be a really long story. But so right now, I'm a creative producer in the fields of video, music, and events. So basically, what I'm doing right now, I work as a freelance in Europe. I'm a videographer in the music industry. I either work with artists, labels, tours, and I also do a lot of productions in Portugal, not as one videographer, but I assemble teams and I direct teams accordingly to the projects to answer video needs from festivals to anything really related to video. Yeah.
I know that wasn't your original focus. So how did you end up in video?
When I was a teenager, I was, I grew up with computers, so I had this time in my life that I was just experiencing as much as possible from the internet and from software. So when I was 15 years old, I already messed around with Photoshop, Sony Vegas, Cinema 4D, all kinds of the creative software. So I had that spirit already in me. But then I got into video more seriously when I started my music project. Mm-hmm. I put it out. I put the EP out, social media, website, like everything. And after the release, I realized that I wanted to keep up with the content. And I realized that video was like the best thing that I could do to keep up with content. So I started to document what I was doing in a vlog format, what I was doing to promote my project and what I was doing around the project. And really quickly, people started to ask me for video. And that's when kind of a light turned on in my brain. And I realized that I was doing something interesting that people wanted from me. That was the first thing that never happened. And then the most important thing is that I could use video to bring value to the others. And in the way that I used video in a way to put myself in touch with the people I wanted, in the industry I wanted, with artists and labels that I wanted. Video was the way. Basically. So I was offering the first year as a videographer, I was just doing all this free work with all around Europe with several different people, projects, like completely different stuff. But it was, I was just planting seeds, basically. I was making sure that every work I did, no matter it was free or not, I was just putting all of myself into that. And I was just, doing the very, very best and a little bit beyond that to every project. And eventually it grew, it's people came to me again, and it was just a roller coaster of, getting better and doing more and more and more. And, as wild as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember being very tech focused as a kid as well. I built my first website when I was 14 and it evolved pretty quickly from there into graphics and other types of content in other fields. So I like your story. I love that you chose video as the medium. I honestly think that probably is still one of the best ways for musicians to go these days. If you're great at writing, blogging's good. If you're great at speaking and communicating via audio, then podcasting might be an opportunity too. But yeah, there's something to video, and we all know that video is just huge right now on virtually any platform.
Definitely.
So I like that. And you had an early vlog too that you went right into the record label. You just knocked on the door and said, "Here's my CD," right?
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. And that's one of the many crazy stories, but it's really it seems like a really cliche story, and it kind of is. So basically, I had this music project. It was progressive rock, which is not very mainstream.
Yeah.
And there was this label called K-Scope that I was always a fan of, and I loved the artists, and they had all my favorite artists at the time. And it for me, it was always like the dream label, the label that one day if I sign myself to that, it will be like the dream. Like so, what happened was I was in London attending to a masterclass at Warner Music, and I had a couple days off. And I decided I was recording everything that I was doing in London through video. I decided to check Kscope. So I went to their websites and I realized they have the address there. So yeah, all right, so let's go there, right? Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I went there, I literally knocked on the door. Well, actually, I rang the bell. Not knocked on the door, but and I talked with the guy that first came downstairs. And when you see the vlog, it will seem like I was just there to promote my EP. But what really happened, it was really not about that. I was listening to a lot of podcasts and Gary Vee in particular, and I had this thing on my mind of free work, offer something, to the people that you want to get involved with. And that's exactly what I did. I went there with a focus of making it clear first that I love the label. I know all about the label, the artists, the podcast, the newsletter. Like I know the label. And second, I want to get myself involved with it. So I want to give you something for free. I will not ask for money. I just want to do something that is valuable for you, and I will not disturb. And while I did this, I recorded it in video, and that's the funny part. So it's online, it's on YouTube. Yeah. And then I posted the video. It was like probably a really important video. I took like 2 months to edit. It was crazy. It was when I was first starting video. But they watched the video, they liked it, and eventually it made me connect with a very important person there, which is now my friend. And 1 year later, they got in touch with me out of nowhere. Wow. Basically, it was a 10 years anniversary of the label at Union Chapel with Anathema, Godsticks, I'm the Morning, and I'm so sorry, I'm not remembering all the artists, and they wanted me to make like a behind the scenes of the anniversary, and it was crazy, man. Like 1 year later, I had no contact with them, and they called me out of the blue to do this, and they wanted me to make a vlog out of it. So it was just a dream come true completely. I was giving my face for the label I love, and I'm finally doing a video for them. It was crazy, yeah.
And you've basically been working with them ever since, right?
Yeah. So I made that free video for them as I promised. It's called Behind 10 Years of Kscope. And it what happened was what I wanted and what I was expecting. I just wanted them to see me working and to see that I know I can work good and I can really bring value to you. So I managed to show them that. And since then, like I've been, it's quite crazy. Like I do different kinds of projects with them. I go to London regularly, and it's mostly like I have some crazy idea that I'd like to do with some of the artists in Kscope, and eventually I send a message to them, and they trust me, and they support the work, which is like a dream come true. It's amazing. I'm really happy with that. Yeah.
It just goes to show too, like there's huge opportunity in video right now. I have a friend who got into it and he was making a pretty good living at it for a while. I think he's changed his focus again. I have friends that, shift focuses every few months, but that's the world we live in right now anyway.
Who doesn't?
Exactly.
Doesn't.
I've changed my focuses many times. So, I mean, you were one of the early supporters of the podcast, which I loved. And to this day, your testimonial is one of the main ones featured on the website. Love for you to talk about what sort of results you got from applying the ideas I've been sharing on the show.
I can't remember exactly what was I remember this comment. I remember having this time in my life that I felt I need to write a huge comment to him because I was getting a lot of value. I don't remember the exact intent, like the exact thing, but I know that I was hearing a lot to the podcast. I started to listen to your podcast when I was promoting my music project, and in that time I was just searching for all kinds of content. Everyone who's talking about how do you get into the industry. I was just, subscribing and downloading episodes and hearing, and your podcast was the one that clicked on me the most, like completely. Many different reasons, like you give tremendous a lot of value to people that are promoting their music and are growing as a musician. Like in practicality, you give a lot of advices, ideas that are definitely like really useful. But the thing that really clicked me about you was actually the name of your podcast, Music Entrepreneur. Like it was making perfect sense to me, the combination of these two words. And you were the only one that I discovered that really brought that up. And I found that amazing, because as a musician right now, as an independent artist, you have to be entrepreneur. Like there's no way around that, So I was really happy that you addressed that, and all your content was following that idea of do it yourself. You have, all these promotional things
especially the internet.
Yeah. I was trying to remember something more specific, because I know there was some specific things. If you give me a second.
Well, I'm looking at episode 40 of the podcast. And episode 40 was about bundling and packaging your music products to maximize earnings. Now, you commented on it, but interesting is what seemed to resonate with you was this content, and in your case, creating video content. So out of that episode, you got that you needed to create content to get your music and your brand out there.
Right. I remember. Yeah.
That probably creates a bit of context.
Yeah, exactly. I know what I mean now. I totally remember even the title of the podcast. I heard it a couple of times, actually.
I still listen to it.
Yeah, I think it's a great one, man. It's really great one, man. What clicked about me, about that podcast in particular, was you were talking about creating more content than just the music.
Yes.
Thinking more about everything else that goes around the music. And it was just making a lot of sense to me at that time. Like, I feel most musicians are just thinking about their music, and they don't realize that everything else around their music is almost as important as the music itself. all the social media stuff, all the, you know, packaging, all the content that comes with the music, that's tremendously important. And what I realized in that time, and when I listened to you, it was like a confirmation of everything that I'm feeling. Like it was the first time I was hearing it like addressed, you know, was that I don't know if this idea comes directly from your podcast or not, but that's the thing I came up at the moment. Anyway, is that the most important thing for an artist is to build a relation with the audience.
Right.
And to connect with the audience, you know.
Yes.
If you think, well, like all the artists that you like, that you listen to, all the artists that you call your favorite artists, you have this special connection inside of you, this special relation, a certain feeling that you have towards this artist that was built over time. But it was not only about the music. If you think, well, like if it's usually it's related to everything else that you're going to see around this artist, you know. First, normally, like you like the music, something calls you out, but then you're going to dive, and when you dive, it's when you're going to consume everything else, and that's usually when you connect. And that's why I thought it was so important to, you know, have the music in place, but then just have everything else also in place, like all the social media, YouTube, video content, like photography,
Yeah.
texts, the website, everything else is, I feel it's very important, because,
Huge.
you know, once you connect to your audience, to one person, then that person will follow you and is really connected to your work and will support you. So what I found important in that time is not so important that people will buy your music. It's important that you connect with people, and people get connected with you and try to you know, to lay down the traps. I don't want to say traps. It's not negative, but to lay down, like, you know, just create a lot of things that people can raise their curiosity about you, and that's just the starting point.
You expressed it very, very well. I think that's what strategy looks like in the music industry today, right? Is having a website, having different types of content, and then extending your arms out to the various social networks. And that's not what's being taught out there right now. There's just some really trendy stuff that people want to fixate on, the little tactics that don't lend themselves to strategy. You can use the tactics as part of the strategy, you know what I mean? Like a strategy is a container for all of your tactics. So if you want to use sales funnels, use them. If you want to use Instagram, use them. But don't think of those as strategies, because they're not. They're just tactics. And you can use those tactics to engage, build that relationship with your audience, who are then interested in you. Mm-hmm. And you're not just coming across as a salesperson constantly launching something, right? So
yeah, it can be about tactics. I mean, you have to feel the tactics. It has to make sense, like true sense to you. You know, it's not just about, oh, I found this tactic, let's use it to get. No, man, this doesn't work. I mean, you have to feel it's right. You know, that's the main thing. You have to feel it's right for you and for your path, because I truly believe that your instinct knows way more than your brain, and in the long term, things might make sense in another way that you weren't thinking before. So, I truly believe in this and instinct.
I like what you said about the music entrepreneur connection as well, because I'm pretty sure I felt the same way when I kind of stumbled upon this idea. And since then, I wouldn't even say since then, there are other players in this space that are musicpreneur or music entrepreneur kind of focused. I just kind of, again, I worry that some of them are maybe missing the point or not really getting what this really represents for people. I don't think it's stuffy. I don't think it's boring. I don't think it's about putting together a resume. I don't think it's about becoming a great manager of a theater. I don't think it's about wearing a suit and a tie. It really is just about taking ownership of yourself first and foremost. It's not even about like saying no to labels. I'm not anti-establishment at all, which is another, I feel like, a common misconception in music entrepreneurship, that you should be anti-establishment. Not at all. You can build an awesome career on your own and then choose whether you want to be independent or label, whichever makes more sense to you. So that's where I see things going.
Yeah, that's the whole point. It's what makes sense to you. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
You have to find it out, and only you can find it out. And it can be anything, man. It can be going to a label or not. It can be getting that music video or not. It can be anything. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. You just have to find it out for yourself. And the only way to find out what's your way is to try things and to just try things, just put out stuff, just try out new things, just get involved, just be confident with yourself. Just don't be afraid to put yourself out there, to knock on doors, like, you know, and things will happen. I think things kind of magically happen when you are on your way.
Yes.
On your right way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And another thing by comment was just that around that time that I released that episode 40, I had some pretty rapid fire ideas that I was kind of going like, why has nobody covered these monetization streams in the music industry? Or if they haven't really expressed it very well. And I could say it really quickly in a 5-minute episode of a podcast and be first to market, maybe not quite first to market, but could be one of the first people to really address the topic in a way that people could just go, oh, I can do that? Yeah, you're right. Why haven't I started this already? Exactly. The tools are all out there now. So whether it was affiliate marketing or bundling your products or setting up your membership site, you know?
Everything is out there, man. Everything you need to know. Like, it's all the practical things. Everything is out there, yeah.
Yeah. So over the years, you've provided me with some great feedback on my content and products, and you've shared your thoughts with me on this before, and you were earlier before we started recording as well. Books and courses, not really your style, coaching more your style,
Yeah.
but say more about that. What is it about coaching that you find beneficial, and what sort of coaching would you personally be looking for?
Mm-hmm. So, I had many different coaches along my life, which were generally my professors, like my guitar teacher and other teachers that I was, and eventually they became coaches. Also my music producer that I worked a couple of years ago. So, I wasn't looking for them. It just happened. And I realized that they were not just teachers, but they were kind of mentors in this way. They were helping me out, like in the broader term, not just that particular thing, but in life in general. And I found like I grew like a lot during those times. It was different times for sure. But anyway, I feel that when you have a coach, you kind of feel more secure in a way. You feel that you have a constant person to reflect what's going on with your life, what you feel, what you want to do. Like, you have constant feedback, and if it's the right person for you, then it will be a really positive thing to you. And it's not easy to find the right coaches. So right now, what I feel is I don't have any coach, and I feel that it's not always. Most of the time, I feel that I know what I'm doing by instinct. I know that I'm going somewhere. But a lot of times, I also think that I'd like to get even more advantage. So I feel that with the coach, maybe I could get more advantage of what I'm doing, be even more productive, be even more tactical, and just get even more out of my life and as a freelancer, as a professional, as a human being. Although I feel I know what I'm doing, at the same time I feel maybe I could be doing even better, So that's why sometimes I feel maybe, having a coach, someone that I could talk with and have a different feedback, maybe it could be cool, yeah. And books and classes and stuff. So books for me I have a very complicated relation with books, because I didn't grow this reading habit when I was young. It was something that I had to do it later, and all the books I consume, it's like it has to be something truly meaningful to me, but in the creative and artistic way. So I never read what's it called? Like this genre of books that, like the books that you exactly
personal development. Yeah.
I never read like personal development books or something like that. It's always something that I have to feel connected with, but artistically, because then that's the drive I need to keep reading it,
Yeah.
And classes and so on. Like I felt that the best class I could get for myself was to experience it myself. And every time I had to learn something specific, I would go on YouTube. But that was just my path, I think courses, books, everything, it can be extremely useful, as it is for a lot of people. And I think you just have to find out what's the best thing that's makes sense to you. And it's like it can be books, can be classes, can be anything, can be looking at the plants outside, anything.
Yeah. The funny part is that you could totally delve into those resources yourself, or you could access somebody who has already read 200 books, who's already, consumed thousands of podcasts, who's already been to dozens of conferences and courses. I'm kind of describing myself there, but not pitching myself.
No.
But I like what you said. When the student is ready to teach your peers, coaches and mentors come in many forms. I've paid for coaching myself and intend to pay coaching again in the future. It just doesn't make sense for where I am right now and what I'm doing. But absolutely, as I continue to grow, I would absolutely get a coach. And, more often than not, it's a thing of, what are you going to do this week? Oh, I guess I'm committed to doing this. And your coach will say, I guess. No, you're going to have that done by next week. And then you go into it, And
that's the thing. It's really good. I mean, it's not only about you, but you have this person in your head that that you have to show something or work on something. And I think it's good. It can be really good.
Yeah,
definitely. And especially when it's something regular. That's another really good thing. It's that every week at this time on Friday, whatever, you'll talk to this person, and it's good. This routine thing is just great to build a skill or to anything.
Yeah.
When I was learning guitar, if I didn't have a professor that I would go like every week, I would never have learned guitar. Like, routine is good, and having someone associated with a routine that you have to kind of explain yourself to in a way. I think it can be really good, definitely.
Yeah. I'm going to keep developing my coaching program. It is available and people can find it on my website at any time. And there's some content that prepares them for potentially being a coaching and collaborative relationship. As you know, not every student is the right fit. Not every teacher is the right fit. So that's always the thing to suss out before getting into that relationship. And the other thing that you said about guitar teachers, I was just kind of going like, whoa, like I'm now super present to the 3 or 4, maybe even 5 guitar teachers I've had over the years, and how grateful and thankful I am to them. Like in this moment, I'm very present to that. So I don't know if any of them are listening, but here on the podcast, I'll say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you in general to teachers.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah. It's not easy work at all.
It's great. Yeah.
So, this is an opportunity to talk about the industry more generally, which I know you've gained a much broader perspective on now. We see things are changing fast, and the big three's gambit with streaming services seems to have paid off. I'm now hearing reports about popular artists who are thriving and in today's ecosystem, and even executives who are saying, money's just rolling in. So they're like signing artists and spending on artists and so on and so forth. Doesn't seem like things have changed a whole lot for independent artists. The status quo kind of is holding. Artists are making about the same. But what are your thoughts on this?
Oh man, things are just wild. It's like, I think with internet, and it's like there's a lot of people saying this already, but it's just the truth. Like 50 years ago, the only way you could you could access music was through LPs, and it was very difficult to get, certain LPs, certain artists. It was really difficult. It was very limited, the access you had. And now it's exactly the opposite. And now it's like this, it's an avalanche. It's like snowball of everything, of content, of people trying to get attention. It's like and at the same time, anyone can put content out, and it can be visible to anyone in the world almost. Yeah. And it's a completely game changer. And I think, it creates a lot of opportunities. It creates a lot of difficulties. Things just changed, but I'm pretty positive about this time, because I feel it's just an amazing time. If you find your focus in the middle of the chaos, and if you shut up all the exterior voices telling you what you should do or not, if you find your thing, if you have to, when you find your thing, then you thrive. And then if you use internet in your favor, can be YouTube, can be Instagram, can be anything. If you use that in your favor, and if you find your right way to use that in your favor, man, you're going to thrive, because it's just it's accessible. It's just about if you're good or not, I think, and if you put out the work, and if you are a good person, which is something that is not really talked much, but it's really important in the industry. Like, even if you are a musician or a videographer, like a freelancer in any creative field, being a good person people are not talking about it enough, man. It's like, that's really important. Yeah, man, it's really important. It's like, I can give you a couple fast examples about this. Like, when I'm working in big structures, for example, when I was working in music festivals and brands that I was hiring people, or I was trying to look for people to get hired for teams and stuff, like the first people you remember about, or the people that you had a good experience with, it's not necessarily, it's really not necessarily the people that made the greatest video or the greatest video. It's way more about the relation you had with that person. And sometimes it's not the person that made it the best video, but it's the person that was the most kind, the most easy to talk with, the most understandable, the most flexible. And another example is when you go on tours, on music tours and so on. It's like, you have to be a good person to keep healthy in the tour. It's like, when you are in the tour, you are in a very specific capsule. You are in a bus or whatever, constantly changing locations. Every night there's a show, and it's a very specific capsule. Like, you are traveling a lot, but at the same time you are not really anywhere, and you are always with the same people. The same engineers, the same lighting guy, the same musicians, the same the roadies, like the tour manager, like everyone. It becomes kind of your family.
Yeah.
And the personalities of people really gets a huge importance, And while on tour, being a good person, it's like 50%, man. It's like, of course you have to be good. Definitely, that's the basis, Either it's music, either it's being a light designer, videographer, anything. But the other 50% is you have to be a good person, man. And it can become a nightmare, especially on tour. It's like a relationship, man. When you have a girlfriend, everything's perfect, and then you move together to the same place, and then everything, sometimes it can go really wrong. Yeah. Things raise because you are living with that person, experiencing a lot of things during the day that you weren't before. And then, their personalities and really comes to the top and gets another kind of importance. So yeah, man, be a good person.
Yeah.
Please share more of this. It's important.
I recently
Yeah,
heard Mark Tremonti from Alter Bridge and Creed on Wikipedia
yeah,
Fact or Fiction, and he was talking about this very thing that the band Creed just couldn't get along, which is why they don't tour, quite as they're not doing quite as much. They've made an attempt at sort of coming back or doing tours and reunions and so forth, but yeah, every time it's just back to the same old, problems and issues with the band members, which says a
yeah,
lot. You know, I talked about this as early as episode 17 on the podcast. Don't be a jerk.
yeah,
And
definitely,
I've since
definitely.
expanded on that too, because I had questions about how do I restore a broken reputation. I'm like, that can be tough, but it's not. It is doable for sure.
Yeah,
Just
definitely, definitely.
because of my reputation, and I've helped out with different events locally. I mean, I'm not in Calgary anymore. I'm in Abbotsford now, closer to Vancouver these days. But when I was in Calgary, I would help out with local creative events a lot, and I even co-founded one community of communities there as well. And I would sometimes get referrals, because my co-founder would then just refer me to another friend of his who's doing regular summer events, and pretty soon I would find myself helping out there too as well, and performing on the stage just because I could play guitar and sing. And the craziest part was all I did in those engagements usually was just show up, be myself, help out in whatever way I could.
Hmm.
And somehow they would still come away going, wow, David's just amazing. And I felt like I didn't do anything. I didn't even feel like I contributed
Yeah,
anything.
man.
But they would go like,
Yeah,
wow, David, yeah, this is so good to work with him. I'm like, oh, cool. So
yeah, your presence. Yeah,
yeah, I wasn't a jerk, and and I guess my
yeah,
presence was supportive.
yeah,
So.
yeah,
And the other point
definitely.
that you said about you can certainly find your fan base out there. Like whenever I really solo music, it's for fun. I do other professional engagements for money, for supporting other artists or whatever it might be. But when I do solo work, usually it's for a lot of fun. And I did a synthwave track a few years ago. It's called City Lights,
Yeah,
and I think
yeah.
it, I think it
I heard
went.
it yesterday,
Oh, you
actually.
did? Interesting.
Yeah, I heard it. I was talking to you, and then yeah, let's search David Andrew Wiebe. I came to that song, and I was listening. Had this beautiful flashback, this 80s kind of
Yeah, yeah.
Stranger Things kind of vibe,
It's
this.
supposed to have that vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool, man.
And I think to this day, it's one of my most streamed tracks. It may not be like massive amounts of streams, but it's by and far one of my biggest contributions out there, and it's got played a lot in Europe. I think it even charted in Europe somehow, but
Oh,
on the iTunes store. Yeah.
that's great.
So this has been a great conversation, Joe. Is there anything else I should have asked or touched on?
Oh, I have no idea, man. There's just, we could talk about everything and nothing because in the end,
Yes.
it's like, man, just do it. Just do whatever you feel like doing right now, and especially the thing that comes from within, and not the thing that you saw on Facebook or your mom told you or you heard somewhere that it would be good if you do that, man. It's all just, it's really dangerous. There's a lot of voices right now, especially with social media, and you feel depressed really easily because you are constantly comparing
Yeah.
yourself. You are constantly judging yourself through what you see, and it's total poison. I feel it's really good. Don't get me wrong. I love social media, but you have to be conscious while using it. So I just think hearing yourself and doing the thing that you feel like doing right now, it's the right thing in long term, and because it will just be a build up. And as I said before, I deeply believe your instinct knows more than your brain.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think yeah, then that's really it. I mean,
That is
uh,
powerful, man. Yeah,
yeah,
you gotta follow. You gotta follow your heart, and it's exactly like you say. There are so many voices out there saying, "Do it this way. Try this. Try that," and you're like, "Look, I've heard you. I got your ideas. I gotta stay focused on this idea that I'm working on right now, though. If I'm ever gonna get anything done, it can't be spread. So many different ways. If you want to get anything done, you gotta exercise focus." So we can be excited about a million different things, but I'm sure there's a difference between somebody who's been excited about a million different things and someone who finished a million different things in their lifetime.
Definitely, man.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. It's so easy to get excited. It's like every day you feel excited, and then you talk about that, and it's this idea thing. It's just, I get really turned off when people are talking too much about ideas. Like I instantly feel, 5 minutes talking about something, an idea or something that could work, I instantly start feeling really bored and feeling like I would prefer to be home doing my thing, because that's how things happen. It's not, talking is important in some stages, but things happen, and the great things in this world happen through someone in a little cave somewhere in the world just doing the thing for 10 years straight, believing in it, and that's how great things happen. I feel people waste too much time on ideas and talking about it, and talking about the thing they thought last night and they are thinking about. Man, just either save it to yourself or just start doing it, because once you start talking about it, you'll start to lose energy, and it will lose momentum. So I think that's relevant too.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little woo-woo on it, but, our body is in perfect alignment. So it starts up here at the head with the vision. We get the vision for what this idea and this project is going to be. And then our eyes, we begin to see it, right? We start to see how this idea could become a reality. And then we speak it. So the speaking part's important, but like you said, you can't get stuck on speaking it, because now it's got to go down to your heart and become a powerful impact that you want to make in the world.
Yeah.
Then it goes down to your gut. And then finally, you give birth. So your body's in perfect alignment, but you got to follow that trajectory. You can't stop at talking about it. Now you got to feel it. You got to feel the difference that's going to make. Yeah.
Never thought it that way. Yeah. Basically, you should keep your mouth shut so that it goes from your eyes to your throat.
That's right. You got it.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. That's great.
All right, perfect note to end this on. Wow, what a conversation. I am just so present to being grateful for you, grateful for the many teachers I've had. Awesome. I love this.
Man, yeah, I'm grateful for everything, for your podcast, for, just keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing, man. I'm sure you're going to bring a lot of value to people, as you are already. And we could be talking for hours, I feel. But in the end of the day, in the end, it's just, just quit this podcast right now and just go and do that thing that is in your head right now. Just do it right now. Don't think anything. Just, you have a message and read message, just turn it off. Just go and do the thing. We are so distracted in these days. So distracted. It's crazy. It's crazy. So...
Well, we'll catch up again, Joe. This has been awesome.
Yeah, for part 2. I hope so.
Part 2.
It's been amazing.
We'll do it. Okay.
Definitely, man. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Music in this episode was brought to you by Brian Young. Wherever you're listening to this right now, please consider leaving a 5-star review and comment to help us get the word out about the podcast.